Why are used BMWs so cheap? Or are they? Things have changed a little bit in the last 2 or 3 years just because of the shortage of new cars forced a lot of buyers to get back into the used car segment, increasing their popularity. I'm going to share with you some of the key reasons why modern day BMWs are slightly more affordable in the used car market. Let's get into it now. Life's too short to drive boring cars. So one of the key reasons why used BMWs are so cheap has to do with the fact that brand new ones are so incentivized so heavily. In other words, you can get leases that are very competitive, finance rates that are competitive in-house. It makes you want to buy a new one. Not to mention, a lot of the new vehicles have all kinds of technology that the even 2 or 3 year old vehicle often doesn't have. Even styling cues is often enough to make people want to step up and buy that next new vehicle. So that's why it sort of drives that used car value down when the next model is just so much better, and when the manufacturer giving you financial reasons for stepping up to the next game and dumping the old one. For example, high trade and residual value on a lease, and they give you low finance and lease rates. It's just too good to resist. Another reason why BMWs are cheap on the used car market is the heavy oversaturation. They're becoming more of a mainstream. Everybody has a BMW these days because of those interest rates, because of the aggressive finance lease rates that you can get that make you not want to resist and just go out and buy your brand new BMW. There's so many on the new car market with such great incentives, they're like a belly button. Everybody's got one. And then on the flip side, because the new BMWs are so popular, those new cars eventually become used cars. And of course, then you have flooding of the marketplace with used BMWs. And of course, that sort of hampers the value when there's lots. You can walk on car lots anywhere and find all kinds of variations of 330s, 5 Series cars, X3s, X5s. There's lots around to choose from because the market is just so saturated with BMWs. And the next reason why, in fact, BMWs are so cheap on the used car market, or relatively speaking, of course, has to do with this. What is this? Well, this basically is a way to read codes. When you get a check engine light on the dashboard, you plug in that little OBD code reader right there, and then you can spit out your code, issue that right on there, and it tells you what's wrong with that vehicle. And did you know when they want to check your vehicle, because you had a check engine light, you get that little light on the dashboard and you illuminate it in yellow, that tells you there's something gone awry. Well, every one of these BMWs has thousands of different sensors and codes that result of a failure somewhere along the line. When something goes out of spec or out of alignment or not functioning quite right, bing, another check engine light. And BMW is not short on that issue. Now, the reality is, to get that car checked into the dealer, they're going to tell you, regardless of your little code reader that I just showed you, you already know what it is. It could be a bad oxygen sensor or mass airflow or some kind of problem. They're going to tell you, we won't touch it until you promise to pay us $250 diagnostic fee to get the vehicle into the shop. I already told you what it was. Well, you know what? They don't want backyard mechanics. So just to have a look at that car, it's going to cost you $250, at least locally, where I'm familiar with. But then once you get to that point, you have to start thinking about all the things that go wrong. I mean, you have turbochargers that are $3,000 or $4,000 to replace, water pumps that are $2,000 to change. On cars with air ride suspension, you're talking about $3,000 or $4,000 to refit the airbags on some of the X vehicles. You also can't forget about some of the other problems you'll get with the electrics and electronics. When things go there, things get ugly in a hurry. Everything costs 150 to 250% more than your average vehicle, and as a result, costs are high. Maintenance service costs are high, parts are high. And maintenance is one thing. When you have to pay $250 for an oil change, that's bad enough. But people often can suck that up when the car's new, because now there's service plans that cover that cost. A lot of times, even if that's all there is to pay for oil changes and tires, people often say, and they justify it, well, that's the cost of owning a luxury car. Once you own them outside of warranty, that's when things get ugly, because anything can go, and trust me, it does. Now, BMWs, granted, have gotten better in the last few years with engines like the B48, that's their latest Turbo 4, and as well as the B58, which is their latest Turbo 6. They both replaced problematic engines from the previous history. Now, with that said, that doesn't change the fact that BMW is notoriously known for using relay on top of relay, module on top of module. Over complexity is their middle name, as well as driving dynamics. All forsaking reliability means that you're going to get the best driving experience, but you're also going to potentially pay for all that complexity that makes it that way. BMW is also known plastic fantastic. They use plastic everywhere under the hood, next to turbos, next to hot exhaust, places that it probably shouldn't exist. And that's part of the reason that they've had some problems with coolant leaks, oil leaks, and gas gasket troubles.
Also, most BMWs utilize a form of oil filter housing here that's usually situated on this side that has coolant as well as oil gaskets that sit there and keep the fluids on either side of the gasket, but they fail to do that after about 80 to 90,000 kilometers, and then you've got an expensive repair because you have to tear apart bulkhead, intake manifold to get the fastening bolts, and it usually results in a couple $1,000s to rectify a couple minor leaks in this front corner. The old infamous electric water pump tucked underneath of a lot of these BMWs that are notoriously known to go, and the parts alone are $1,100-1,200, and then the thermostat that's sandwiched next to it is also something they say while you're in there you better fix that, but they're all made of plastic, overly complex, and they are known grossly to fail.
As a matter of fact, they were so problematic that BMW in the latest B58 engine, they said, you know what, no more electric water pumps. They went to a mechanical style driven off a belt, good old-fashioned impeller like you're finding in most conventional vehicles, because even BMW was likely getting tired of that, and the reputation associated with some of the cooling system problems just was way too much to tolerate. But suffice it to say, BMWs, great cars when they're new. As they evolve, you hit 80, 90, 100,000 kilometers or 60,000 miles, you get to a place where they become very cost prohibitive just from the sake of maintenance and parts replacement. Okay, let's just get into some of the used vehicles that I see listed locally, and then you can also be the determination whether you think that's fair value in your mind. Because remember, traditionally, up to about 2 or 3 years ago, vehicles on the BMW marketplace used would typically be easily, once you hit 5 years of age, they'd be less than 50% of their original value, minus the few little one-offs that were popular vehicles and models. Most of them were less than actually half of its value in 5 years. So right here we have a 2019 BMW X3. This one here, it's a great little unit, very popular. It's one of their best sellers back in the day.
And as we circle around, of course, you have the great laser cut wheels. You have this nice little rocker panel that looks aluminum and little vents. How about these LED lights that revised? You still have the kidney grills. It still looks conventional BMW, but it's a 2019. Beautiful fold-away mirrors. Lots of sunroof activity on there. Soft touch access. And of course, LED tail lights to finish it off. This one does come equipped with the X-Drive, and it's a 30i X3, which means that has the B48. That's the turbo 4-cylinder engine. Makes about 250 horsepower strapped to the 8-speed ZF automatic transmission. And these vehicles sold for about $50,000 Canadian, brand new. Of course, with the X-Drive, it bumps it up a little bit, and there's a few extra add-ons and options may elevate a little bit. But base price for this vehicle was over $50,000. And guess what they're asking today for this beautiful little rig with a significant amount of kilometers on it? This vehicle actually is listed at $34,000.
So that's about 68% of its original value in 5 years. Remember, the target's 50, so this is clearly holding a much, much higher value than it would have even 3 short years ago. So another little hot number is this beautiful little BMW M2 parked right here. Now, this isn't the M2 competition, which actually carries the S55. This actually carries the N55 engine that's slightly tuned up, but essentially it's the earlier generation of the M2. But let's take a look around and understand why enthusiasts are loving this.
Of course, you do have carbon fiber wing on the back. Look, you have quad exhaust tips that have carbon fiber wrapping right there. You have these little vents, fake vents, beautiful deep dish looking rims. Of course, it flares out nice and you need rock protection there. Soft touch access getting in and a sunroof to boot. Look at these great little mirrors. And as well, this is a BMW laser LED. Circle around, beautiful kidney grills. This car looks stout and aggressive. Just look at the flares on that. This car looks mean and ready for action, and it is. It's a driver's car.
Even the interior is a little Spartan, but it's built for business. That's the business of racing. So this is a great car. They have great performance, phenomenal rear-wheel drive vehicle with a double clutch transmission, tons of fun. And as a result, sometimes the enthusiasts are a little overzealous and they'll pay a little more than they probably should. About 6 years ago, back in 2018, because yes, we're rolling into the 24 model years here right away, this car listed at almost $56,000 Canadian. Yes, $56,000. Do you know how much they're asking for this beautiful little hot rod today? Yes, $53,000 Canadian. Yes, $53,000.
That's right, they've got this vehicle listed at 95% of its original value, and it's already 6 years old. So next right here, we have a beautiful M4 BMW, which is the big brother of the little M2 over there. This one here has the S55 engine. This is the twin turbo straight 6. In other words, 3 liter. That is 3 liter single turbo twin scroll. This is a hotter engine. Definitely has more potential for tuning as well. But here we have the M4. This vehicle here, even with the great carbon fiber wing on the top, this absolutely has the great exhaust tips, chrome tips on here, more vents on the bottom, more accents and accentuations all over this vehicle. It is a gorgeous piece. Look down the side. It has all these little details along the sides, gorgeous. And they even have this beautiful mirror right there. Look at the bulging hood, makes it look mean. And look at the front end of this vehicle. It is absolutely gorgeous. Of course, you have angel eyes, beautiful aggressive front spoiler, deep dish with the M calipers on there, and more badging there.
Now we have to make note that this car here is already 8 years of age. That's right, it's a 2016 model year here. It has about 80,000 kilometers, so it's reasonable miles. Double clutch transmission, 425 horsepower. It's a great car, but the warranty ship has sailed long ago.
And when this vehicle was new, it listed at about $76,000 Canadian, and now the dealers here locally have actually listed this vehicle at just about 50 grand, making this car holding about
65% of its original value, and it's 8 years old. No warranty. You drive it away. Good luck to you, folks. Now, it's not a horribly unreliable car. As a matter of fact, that S55 is pretty durable and quite robust, but that doesn't change the fact that with age comes deterioration, comes failures, and it just gets more costly.
And then here we have the next one. Here we actually have a 4 Series, but this one here is called the Grand Coupe, as you see right there. Yeah, you have the LED tail lights. This one's X-Drive, so it's all-wheel drive. 440 means it carries the earlier generation of the wonderful B58 Turbo 6, which I mentioned. Beautiful laser cut wheels. Look at these easy access handles there and there. Of course, beautiful mirrors and a sunroof to boot. Look, this one also has some beautiful sight lines coming down the hood. And I love that big bold logo right there with these angel eye headlights poking out at the front. Now, it's a good looking vehicle, and of course this one is a 2018 model year, making this one about 6 years old as well. And when this vehicle was new, this was listed at around $58,000 Canadian in this configuration.
And they've currently got it listed about $39,500, which means this vehicle is currently listed at about 68% of its original value. Is that anywhere near 50%? Not even close, folks. So clearly the market is such in a way that, yes, used BMWs are relatively cheap, great bang for buck, and there's reasons that the prices are hampered the way they are. Other than obviously vehicles like the M2 are very niche, people do tend to pay more, and of course they ask more money for that. They're still a cheaper buy versus buying a lot of the new versions, because the new versions are escalated even further and higher, and they're inflated even much farther than their predecessors were, like these versions. So relatively speaking, used BMWs are cheap, but not quite as cheap as you thought. Now with all of that said, right there, check it out. That is the reason why used Mercedes-Benz are just so cheap. Hope to see you real soon. Catch you all on the flip side. See you then. Bye-bye.